Excellent. Good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Felicia Williams-Young. I am a part of Metro United Way and BLOCS. I am so excited that everybody is able to join us this morning. We have about 40 people already on the call, as some others may join us shortly, but I am excited beyond measure to have Dr. Charles Smith and his team, Lucy Smith, as well as Sally Smith, on the line today from the Q-Turn group. They are going to be going over the guidance. I will let them explain it because they are the creators. You may recognize some of Dr. Smith's work. If you've been a part of our youth program quality intervention or youth program quality assessment process, YPQI, you have heard us talk about, or if you've been to methods, you have heard us talk about the infamous Weichert Center, the David P. Weichert Center. And Dr. Charles Smith was instrumental in all of that. So you have a legend in your midst. And I'm so excited that he was able to take some time this morning to join us. He's in Michigan, so he's coming down through Zoom to grace us with his presence and his information and his knowledge and his body of work. I am excited. This is the first time I'm hearing the presentation as well, so I will be going through right along with you. But I am excited that you could join us. There will be a break at some point this morning, but in the meanwhile, take care of yourselves. We are here. This is being taped. So if you have staff members who are in the classroom helping out with NTI, please know that you'll be able to share this with them on Monday. I will be sending out the link. If you can, please don't jump off because it's being recorded, because we are going to walk through this tool today. And we're going to show you how to work it, how to make it happen, how to create the best programs that you can create during this time. And it's just going to be a great day. So without further ado, I present to you Dr. Charles Smith. Charles, take it over.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Felicia. Hello, everyone. It's very, very nice to meet with you this morning. I'm just going to take a moment to get things adjusted and get my screen set up. So I'm going to share my screen and bring up a presentation. And then I have to make a couple of quick adjustments here. All right, I think that'll do it. And so this work and one more. Let's see. This work today will require, we're going to talk about this a couple times, but it will require you to scroll around between a few. The materials set, right, is your screen and the things that we put on it. So we'll talk in a minute about how to keep the screen organized as we work through the day. As I said, it's really a great pleasure to meet with you all. My name's Charles Smith. I'm from the Q-Turn organization. Q-Turn, our byline is improvement science for the public and social sectors. We like to make performance measures and help people build lower stakes quality improvement systems. We offer a contrast to the kind of thinking that went into high stakes systems like the No Child Left Behind policy and other ways of thinking about doing measurement and accountability like that. Really interested in the work today. This is the first time we've done this training for the guidance for out of school time learning at a distance, or the GOLD. It's a self-assessment funded. The development was funded by the Michigan Department of Education and the Michigan Afterschool Partnership. And we talked to, as we'll tell in a moment, we talked to a lot of folks around the state of Michigan to create this work, and we're very happy to talk with you about it today. I have to figure out how to move my mouse. There we go. Okay, so the agenda today is to tell you a little bit about the tool, the GOLD, where it came from, what its purposes were, how all the parts fit together, to practice at scoring it or understanding the indicators that you score on the tool, to improve our ability to score accurately. and improve the quality and usefulness of the data, and then to go ahead and do the self-assessment. For those of you who know the YPQA, this is a self-assessment that's focused at trying to think about, as we'll say in a minute, we're trying to think about where the child is located right now, and we are thinking about the point of service under conditions of learning at a distance, right? So it's a different scenario, and we realize the crisis that represents in many organization and professional experiences to try to figure out how to put all those pieces together. This is a very difficult moment in the out of school time field. So we wanted to keep this short and doable, so that we're hoping that we can sit together for a couple hours and be done with the rating, and have practiced a little bit on the way there so that we can feel confident about the data. The goals for the training are to learn about the gold, to become a consistent and accurate user of the instrument, and then to score it for a site. So those are our goals for a day, and we're thinking this experience is going to run around 2 hours. Who knows? You may be really fast. It may go quicker than that. So one of the main things is, as I know TJ here, as he knows, we're really hands-on kind of people. So we would prefer to be sitting in a room with you down there in Louisville right now, having this conversation, of course. Although this is much better for the carbon footprint to be talking in this way, but it requires us to do this new dance, right? To become our empathetic and compassionate brothers and sisters of technology exchange, right? Who knows? Everybody clicks it a different way. So we're just going to try to be really patient as we go through the day. There will be a need to open up a workbook and work at that at the same time that you're listening to the Zoom call. And, you know, all the value comes out of seeing the face. So if you can manage to keep my face up and talking, or whoever is talking, that part up and hearing and experiencing while you've got the other parts going, that's the best way. And I've got Lucy Smith, our communications person, on the line here too. Lucy, do you want to say hello at this moment?
Hi, everyone. I'm really glad I'm here with you today. And if you have any tech issues, you can put it in the chat or shoot me an email. My email's in the workbook, and I'm happy to help you out if you have any issues with the workbook and Zoom or anything like that.
Right on. Thank you, Lucy. Okay, so right now, if you're a skilled Zoom user, if you want to go out to the picture of all the pictures and try maybe increase your screen a little bit. And if you're not gonna, if you can chime in for a minute, this is better if we can see each other. And so if you want to turn your camera on just for a moment, and then you can go back. So we wanted, this is kind of an intense experience, right? This is an assessment training. We're going to have to read some fairly specific indicators, and we're going to try to get better at it, right? So we're going to match some evidence to some indicators, and then we're going to think about our own practice while holding the example in our mind. And that's a hard thing to do. It takes focus. And we're going to try to, we're trying to be very efficient when we go through this today, but we want to leave here with ratings that we have some kind of confidence in. So that takes a little bit of focus. So I want to get us ready. So what I'd like to do is adjust our social emotional state just for a quick minute. So if you could right now, I'm going to ask you, and on the count of 3, I'd like you to do it. I'd like you to pick a face that you're looking at here. And I would like you to just out loud with me on the count of 3, welcome that person. Dirk, I'm going to be welcoming you. You're right in the middle of my screen. I would like you to welcome that person and tell them that you're happy to see them. Big smile and tell welcome and happy to see them. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Welcome, Dirk.
Welcome. And welcome.
Welcome, Micah.
Welcome.
Glad you're here.
Patrick. Glad you're here.
Yeah, right on, right on. That's great. All right, so now we're feeling a little positive juice. I see smiles. All right, so let's all now do, that beat? Let's all breathe together for 3 minutes, three breaths. We're just going to bring our breaths together for 4 beats. So let's go. We're going to start right now. We're going to inhale. 1. And exhale. And inhale. And exhale a little slower. And now inhale. And a nice long exhale. All right, right on. We're focused. We've got some positive juice. We're focused. We're tuned. Let's jump into it. So the good news in this really difficult situation that we're all in is that it represents a few pivot opportunities. There are some ways that we could either keep going or come back that are better than the way we've been doing them before. And so the gold was written with a few of those opportunities in mind, because everything has pivoted at this moment. Organizational change stuff, it's all moved around at this moment. And so people are really trying to figure that out. And so the pivot opportunities that are written into the tool, the part of the assumptions, are the focus on school success now under conditions of COVID-19, and in conditions where the after-school service is delivered at a distance, and where school services are being delivered at a distance and in blended ways. Being a student is become one of the more difficult things in childhood at this moment. And so helping children, because we are developmentally focused in the after-school field, helping children with school success becomes one of really even a more important thing that after school or out of school time providers will be doing. For some, it's still not part of the model, right? And that's fine, whatever. But for many, this is going to be a really important part. And so in the pivot, we have the opportunity to become better at supporting kids with schooling. And, you know, by the way, we're also breaking out of the seat time mold right now. For those of you who've heard about competency-based education, this is the big moment. We're going to find out. Lots of kids are moving a certain number of hours to get some kind of credential. So, you know, interesting things are happening. There's a lot of potential for us as well here. Equity issues, you know, these words are on everyone's breath these days. It's another, you know, Black Lives Matter is bringing us some progress at the moment. We're making, you know, it's a good moment to work on these issues. But the equity thing, particularly the cyber equity thing, right? This doing after school, out of school time in this circumstance just really raises the issues of who's got access to the internet and the right machines to use it and the right software to make the best use of it. And it's just, you know, an inexcusable issue that we're dealing with, that it's not, people don't have that, but that's a real, and there are many others. So in the pivot, there are opportunities to deal with equity issues. And then finally, in the pivot, there are opportunities to deal more with families and more with the family space. And, you know, for as confusing as social science and research can often be, one of the things we know is that if you can help people in their households, it really helps the kids. It's big effects, right? And so our ability to help children be successful at schooling, a process that is now happening in and stressing more households, because it's hard to be a student and hard to support students. We really have the opportunity also to make that household less stressful too, to make everybody's life a little easier. So it's a potential really to have some big effects on the children that we serve. So there are some opportunities in the pivot, but for you personally, we think there is an opportunity in the pivot, and that's what the goal was created for. There are messages in the data, right? Some of those messages are, hey, look, we're doing all this stuff pretty good. We're trying. Some of those messages are, hey, we're trying to work in these areas. We're thinking about how to try to make this part of the service work better, and we're working on it. We could use help. And then part of it, one of the messages that can be sent with the information that you will give today is we need resources to flow in this direction. There's a rubric, right, that we fill out as a part of the goal, and two of the indicators are about your internal capacity and your need for technical assistance. And if you answer, you know, no to internal capacity and yes to technical assistance, that's a signal that more resources could be used. So there are some ways of that this, like all measurement instruments, we try to be explicit about how this is useful to you. And so at the end of the day, if you will put your scores as we go through it today into the workbook, and you send us that workbook, you don't have to put your name on it, just your email, or you put it in our Dropbox, we will send you and only you back a report in a couple of days. That is your scores for your program that you do today, and the compared to the group norms for this group. It'll only come to you. Our privacy assurance, we're a data organization. Our privacy assurance is on the front of the workbook. So we're hoping that in the pivot, there's also, the goal was designed also to try to help you have an opportunity in terms of rating the services you're doing and advocating for your own work. So in this section, I want to tell the tool story. And just to give the broadest context, the goal is really all about the new individual learning environment. If you note the figure, the person in the middle of this figure inside the pyramid, for those of you who, the pyramid is a widely used shape in the after school field and early childhood, really. Weichert Center and the YPQA, they have the pyramid of program quality. The basic point, safety at the foundation. A safe environment provides, the foundation for a lot of other learning activities. And when kids really get focused, they're using their executive control and they're really controlling what they're thinking about and having agency. That's what the after school field's all about. As I said, there are pyramids all over the after school field. It's Maslow's hierarchy. And so what we're trying to figure out is now children will be either in their household or others' households. Or perhaps they will be at a neighborhood, a hub kind of a thing, a pod, but they'll be in some new places and you may be working with them from a distance. So how do we help support that new individual learning environment that isn't necessarily in the same room with us? That's the idea. What can we do to support the Maslow thing, which is good for everyone at all times? How do we support that best when kids are in these different places? The other thing to know about this story of the tool is where it came from. This was a tool developed from expert practitioners in the state of Michigan and a little bit in Florida. We were talking to folks in Michigan. We did this as a series of 5 iterations with 50 expert after-school people from around the state, urban, rural, 21st century, community-based, older youth, younger youth, and we really put them through it. And so all the words that you see in the tool are really their words. We refine them and sharpen them, but they're really their words. And so this is really a field anchored rating system. Finally, our main purpose in developing the tool, if you skip the gray text, it's valid to produce valid quality ratings to better say what's changing right now, because a lot of things are changing in organizations and in the out of school time service. And so we could just keep trying to push our old models against this new stuff, or we could try to, or many, and we're not, right? Many after school programs are innovating, and out of school time and human services in general, they are innovating. And so we talked to all these folks who were innovating and asked them what was working, and that's where the gold came from. And so then we put a methodology around it. It's a self-assessment with trained raters. That's you. That's what we're doing right now. Designed to be used with lower stakes incentives. That means we're going to put very individually, personally relevant information in an email back to you. Your incentive is good data that you produced, and at very low cost. And so our goal is to make as many people able to use this with as little time and as low cost as possible to get a valid rating and have a good series of discussions about what's changing. And we think that should really be the focus of evaluation right now. It's not about accountability and precision. It's about helping people think through what's going on. So that's the purpose and the goal. This is the map. It's also in the workbook that you have. All the businesses down here on the 27 indicators at the bottom. That's what we're going to be looking at today. I think we're going to first check reliability on a few of these, and then we're going to start scoring them. And that's the purpose of the training. Again, a little bit about tool design. It goes from abstract to specific as you go from top to bottom. The 27 at the bottom, it gets even more specific. Each one of those, there are the actual practices that people are doing at their programs. which can be varied, right? There are many different ways to be, for example, trauma informed, or to try to achieve shared expectations. But it goes from abstract to granular, and basically we focus on the 27. And today we'll be digging into these 27. And what we know from past training is that reading these indicators is the first most important step you can take to becoming a much more accurate rater. So the more we can go through these indicators with you in the next hour, the better and it's not even going to be an hour, the next half hour, the better raters you'll be in the following 45 minutes. So that's our goal really in the training today. I will also say this thing moves from left to right. And so you'll see out to the left, the kind of the community, family, organization level. As you move to the individual learning environment, that's where the child is in the moment that they are interacting with you or your program's materials. Then there's the content, what's going on in the child's head. And then there's planning, and that's about planning. Planning is really important, right? But that's so we can tell children what's going on and tell them confidently that we're prepared. So we really are thinking about, while you can look at that last one as external and planning and such, its real purpose is to help us be more certain so we can communicate that confidence and certainty to the kids to the extent possible. So it's really also an internal, it's almost like a child SEL purpose in that last one. So it goes from wider to more narrow, from left to right, and abstract to specific, top to bottom. As we've been talking with folks about this map and doing this work, 2 points have really, really come to the fore. And this gives you an opportunity to read the first 2 indicators that we're going to read in this reliability section. So one of them is the indicator for staff wellness, and the other one for integrative program plan. So I'm going to give you just 30 seconds. Go ahead and read those 2 indicators. So, you know, the gist of what we'll be doing today, we'll be reading things like this and thinking about, gee, how do we do that? It won't be everything in the indicator, but it will be the thing that you do to try to achieve that general type of thing described in the indicator. And in particularly the indicator name, staff wellness, for example. So you've read these 2. I will say that these strike us as the 2 most important things going on in the field right now, or 2 of the more important things. The staff, the adults who are working with the kids and trying to figure out how to do the pivot, are burning out. This has been super tough work getting from March through summer, and people are in a tough spot right now. And so extra care to how to support staff as we go into the school year is probably one of the most important things we hear people talking about that they're worried about, is keeping people. The other issue is integrated program plans. So around the United States, and I didn't have a chance to talk with Felicia and TJ in prepping for this about your licensing environment. Maybe we did discuss it a little, but so there are these, in Michigan, the licensing folks are asking childcare providers to produce what they call integrative plans. And so that's just so you can have a plan describing to parents and others and to staff what your plan is for either doing distance services or opening and doing in-person distances according to needs for social distancing and PPE use. The other cool part of this is they're asking them also to communicate with schools, because the childcare situation for parents, right? So after programs that develop an integrative plan are also those that are talking to schools and can tell parents, if school's happening in person in these days, childcare is happening on these days, that sort of thing. So we're seeing these as 2 really big emerging issues, and it's the first 2 indicators that we've had a chance to read. So that's the introduction. We're going to have plenty of opportunities to talk as we go through this next section. So I'm going to move us right in. Feel free to enter any questions in the chat at any time. and Lucy will be monitoring the chat. So what we're going to do now is head into about a 20-minute reliability exercise. And this reliability exercise is going to involve reading indicators closely and looking at practice examples and matching the right practice example to the right indicator. And we'll, each time when we go to one of the exercises, I will bring up the actual match. I'll bring it up on the slide, but you will also have it in the workbook. And we will ask you to enter the responses into the workbook if you can. We will also ask you not to change them. These are not designed to be gimmies. And so you will get some wrong. If everybody gets them all right, then they're not hard enough. Because the whole point here is to help people efficiently pay attention to these indicators. So please don't change your scores. We would like to see how you did on just the first try, since you've not been introduced to this before. We can talk about what the scores are, but we just ask that you not change from your first ones. So reliability. In this case, and really, in all cases, reliability is all about consistency. Whatever is being rated, whether it's you with a pencil and paper answering a question on a test, or me watching a teacher work in a classroom and rating them on an observational measure, or you sitting and reading an indicator and thinking about your own practice and comparing, any of those activities are more reliable when they're more consistent. Meaning every time you think about that parent survey that you do to assess basic needs at the beginning, you say, oh yeah, that meets the shared expectations indicator, and I would score that as high fidelity because it's exactly what we want to do. And you would do that every time you thought of it. Or a rater, every time they see a teacher's practice, they rate it the same way on the tool, and even across different raters. If they saw a person do the same thing, they would rate it the same way on the tool, right? It's consistency. So for this kind of a measure, where our method is basically mental comparison, we're asking you to think of things in your head, it's really the mental model that is what's all about reliability. So we want to talk about the mental model as the key to the process for using the goal. And so we want to think about that mental model on 11 of the indicators right now. So we're going to move on, and so this is again back to a screen check. We're going to ask you to bring up your workbook so that you can, I'll click forward to the next slide. I'm going to bring up the example, right? This is the first match, but you will also have that in your workbook, and we'd love you to complete it in the workbook if you can. So Lucy, do you want to add anything here at this point about technology?
No, if you're having trouble exiting full screen, hit the escape button, or under view options, you can switch to exiting out of full screen. I know a couple of people said that they don't have access to the workbook, so I'm attaching it I'm sending it in the chat. Just give me 1 second and I will throw that in the chat for everybody.
Yeah. And you can write your answers down just on a scrap of paper and then enter them. There are only going to be 11 of these. So, you could write them down and enter them into the workbook later if you wanted to do that too. But we also, at the end, we really want to ask you if this worked. So, how it worked balancing the workbook with the Zoom call. Okay, so let's jump into it. This is the matching practice. So we're going to do some matches and then we're going to talk about it. And, I really, I encourage you to share. And, this whole practice is about kind of filling out the ideas about understanding what the words mean in the indicators. So anything that comes to mind is about one of the indicators or a practice that you're currently using is interesting territory for us to talk about. So if you could flip to page 7 in your workbook. This is the first match, and we'll do this one together. I'm going to read the instructions. So in this matching task, for the first 3 indicators of the goal, so these are indicators 1, 2, and 3, please read the practice example and skim the indicators to find the best fit. So that means I start with the example, the first example on the right. For questions about the virus, I can't figure out, I gotta move my mouse. There's a lot of moving parts on my screen. For questions about the virus, staff explain how to stop the spread of germs, e.g. hand washing, and connect parents with information on how to talk about the virus with children. Well, I read that practice statement, and I come over to the left-hand side and I look at the indicator names: shared expectations, information advocacy, hygiene, and PPE. That looks pretty obvious. Now is my moment to closely read the indicator and make the score. And I know that seems very specific, but we'd like you to try that method as you do it in the workbooks. So let's go ahead and take a minute. We know that the first practice example goes with hygiene and PPE. So why don't you see what you think the next two are. So I'll give you a minute to read through those, maybe 2 minutes. And when someone's ready to let us know what they think the other two are, please feel free. I'm going out to my wide screen. So please feel free to chime in and let us know what you think the other two are. All right, what do we think? How about, what was the, which indicator went with the second practice example?
I would think it was shared expectations.
And who is this?
Megan, the Cabbage Patch Settlement House. Hi.
Hey, Megan, how's it going? From Cabbage Patch Settlement House, right on. Yeah, so you think that staff distributed activity boxes with unboxing videos helps parents touch and see them, helps them understand the value of the program, and that goes with?
With shared expectations.
Yeah, right, shared expectations, perfect. And Megan, what did you have for the third practice example?
Information advocacy.
Yeah, oh, well, that's the last one. Yeah, of course. Yeah, right. All right, so I hope these weren't just, we made this one a little easier. The rest of them won't be as much of a gimme if you like a good puzzle. So I'm going to go back to my smaller screen. Thank you. Thank you for that, Megan, at Cabbage Patch. So let's go on. Let's keep going. So in your workbook, you have a second practice match. This time with 4 indicators. Indicator number 4, trauma informed. Number 5, strengths based. Number 7, multiple connections. And number 10, child-centered workspace. Let's take the next 4 minutes and review those practice indicators and rate them, please. And then we'll come back and talk. If there are any questions, please just feel free to shout out or enter in the chat. It's 10:36. We'll come back at 10:40. And as you start to finish, if you just enter it in the chat, and we'll come back if everybody's done or when everybody's done. All right, I think people are finished up. That took about 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes probably. Great. So does anybody want to tell us what they think the order of the answers are? And again, please don't change them. We really want to know what your first, if you'll send us the workbook, we'd really love to know what your first response was. Who would like to share the order?
Well, that first one would be child-centered workspace.
So during virtual meetings and calls, staff talk with students about the importance of setting up a space that is good for learning and makes them feel safe. Yeah, right on. Mike.
Yeah.
Yep. Outstanding. Do you have another one, Dirk, while we're there?
Let's see. I think on the second one, program staff receive training on how to help children cope with stress. I put that under, I put that under trauma informed.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, I think, does that sound right there? Those first two sound good to everybody? Yeah, I think they're right. Thumbs up, right on. And Dirk, where are you from? What organization?
I'm with Peace Education here in Louisville, Kentucky.
Peace Education?
Peace Education.
Right on. That's what we need more of in this world.
Got that right. Conflict resolution at the utmost.
Yeah, right on. Outstanding. Okay, good. All right, so we got to focus though. So who would like to do? How about the next two? Who has the answers? Or some.
Well, since Dirk started us off, my name's Elijah. I'm also with Peace Education Program, so I'll just keep the team going.
Right on.
For the third one, program design provides online activities as well as home delivery of materials, live meetings, and limited in-person socially distanced activities. I said that was 7, the multiple connections.
Yeah, right on. And then, so that leaves us the last one, when uncomfortable events are observed. That's being strength-based, right?
Yeah.
Right on. Okay, how was that? Is everybody cool with that? Give me the thumbs up if you were cool. Okay, looks like that was no problem. All right, let's do the next 4, please. Turn to page 9, and let's do the next 4, and I'll give you 3 minutes, then 45. All right. Seems like people are sending in. Let's give it another minute. But if somebody would like to, somebody new would like to volunteer the first couple of answers, that'd be great.
Hi, this is Ann Walker with Global Game Changers, Student Empowerment Program. And for the first answer, staff talk about how they're dealing with their own feelings and emotions during the pandemic, during lessons that revolve around healthy coping strategies. I did number 15, modeling SEL skills.
Yeah.
And then for number 2, staff meet virtually with children daily and update the Google Classroom so that activities can be repeated with the caregiver or completed at a better time. I did number 17, content options.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay, who would like to do the next 2? Thank you, Ann. So these are all just lined up right in a row. We didn't even manage to scramble the answers on this one. Now that I look at it. But at any rate, we can see that the program integrated with schools. So this is a very tight relationship with a school. This is, school day alignment is one where, low fidelity may mean, and we give explicit, it's non-implementation. We're not actually able to do that, or we don't try to do that. It's not part of our program model. Okay, so that was great. That takes us, I think, to another. We're making great time. Another type of activity. So here we were matching we were reading indicators closely and matching evidence. In this next couple of exercises, we want to do the other part. So that was that mental comparison thing that we're going to have to do to score this tool. We want to do another part that's a little bit, it's a little bit complicated. It's not going to take long. But it's about documentation, and that's the thing that makes it kind of weird. So we're going to talk about, if you're going to say, am I doing that practice well at high fidelity? What are you thinking about when you say fidelity? Typically, that one of the things that's an indicator of knowing what fidelity is where it's written down. Is the practice described anywhere in a manual, in a handbook, in statewide competencies, in licensing, regulatory guidance? Is it described in an assessment tool? Is it, where is it written down as a way of thinking about what's fidelity for that particular practice? So we want to talk a little bit about that. So I'm going to ask you, we're going to read 6 more of the indicators, and this will take us to 17, where we've read through them. And for this one, this is, again, if you can turn to page 10, in your workbook. This is fidelity documentation. So we pick an indicator. In this case, we're going to indicator 3, which is now I think the 16th one that we'll read. So program staff provide critical health knowledge. And I think we read this earlier. I put it in twice because it's so important. E.g. how viruses spread and how to safely get physical activity. And they share federal and local guidance for hygiene and personally protective equipment. So this is a new trick that all of us old cats are learning, right? Right now, this is some new stuff. So where would you say that's written down? A lot of these are not going to be written down. So, and that's totally cool. Or it may not be your area of work and I just don't know. That's totally cool too. So if you could just turn to page 10 and think about that, your information on, kind of your public health information about the virus and your guidance on PPE, where is that written down? And just select any that apply. And if it's somewhere else, like if it's in health department memorandum, you can type that into other. And I'm going to ask for a couple of examples. If just a couple of people could say, just out loud, just go ahead and let us have it. Where is that stuff written down for you?
Our website.
It's on the website. Okay, what section of the website, Patrick?
So whenever the pandemic hit, I work at Big Brothers Big Sisters of Kentucky, and we updated our website with the COVID-19 page so that it would be easily accessed by our participants. We also put together requirements for mentoring, taking into account protection against the pandemic. And so we did like an agreement that we had everybody sign, and that was listed on our website as well.
Okay. So you might, in the other box, put website and participant agreement or something. You might just put that in a note in that field. Who else? Where else was this written down? Now we must
So we-
have this. Yeah, go ahead, please.
We similarly sent out separate agreements to parents, like when we had them sign their liability waivers for coming into the program. We included in that an entire section on PPE and requirements for them. We do have it posted, hand washing requirements posted near all the hand washing stations. And we also, on both our Facebook page and our website, right at the front, it says COVID updates. You click that and it gives all the information there.
Right on. So you might put a website, there might be several documents you might list here in the other category, or you might consider part of that actually as your parent handbook. I don't know if you do it in a handbook, but anyways, you can see. All right, so these are great examples. Thank you, Megan and Cabbage Patch and Patrick and was it Boys and Girls Clubs?
It's Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Big Brothers Big Sisters. Yeah, right on, right on.
But
Yeah.
we're friends. We know each other.
Yeah, we're all friends. Absolutely. Starts with a B. You know. Yeah, okay, great. So in your workbook, there are 5 more of these. If you could please read each indicator and answer just check all that apply. And I'm going to give you, I'll give you 6 minutes before I check back in on this one. So it's 10:51 and I'll check back at 10:57. And I'll turn up the pretty music a little bit. All right, we've just had it pointed out that my slide is wrong here. So it's just my slide. You've got the correct ones in 3, 6, 8, 13, 20, 24. I can really just stop. Oh my God. There we go. Yeah, so there's no slide 25. Or no indicator 25 in this exercise. And as you finish up, just go ahead and throw that in the chat. Okay, so that's 6 minutes. It sounds like people may still be finishing some of these up, so maybe this is a 7 or 8 minute exercise. But thank you. As you're finishing up, we're right on time, and I am going to ask you to offer a couple of comments about your thoughts so far in reading through the indicators. As you read through these indicators, are you saying, yeah, that's the important stuff to be thinking about? This sounds about right. Or are you thinking, oh my gosh, this is too abstract. I can't identify with this at all. What's your first response to having read through 17 of the indicators? Just any kind of comment, any kind of feedback is most welcome.
Well, are you asking us to speak or to write it in the chat box?
No, speak. Go ahead, Patrick, please. Yes, yes.
I mean, all this is applicable to what we do. I mean, we track data among our program participants because we have to do for grant reporting. And you know, like flexible calendar, I mean, that's really applicable to us because everything we do is one-to-one, so it's very individualized. You know, but if I don't know. I mean, like this is stuff. A lot of the stuff is stuff we're already doing, and it's forcing me to think about like how we're doing it, and you know the processes that we have in place.
Right on. That's very helpful. Thank you, Patrick. Anybody else? And also, I'm curious to know did most of these have documentation, or were most of them undocumented? I see some heads nodding. Did most of these have documentation? Do a thumbs up or in the chat. Yeah, I'm seeing thumbs. Okay. Yeah, thumbs. Okay. Great. Anybody else got a comment?
We have a lot of messages in the chat. Folks are saying that the indicators are validating the work they've been doing, why they're so tired. Also, you know, things to think about and plan for in the future, those types of things. So those are a couple of the messages in the chat box.
Okay. Okay, so that's great. And so anytime in the chat you anytime in the chat that you want to put a rose or a thorn in there, anything that we're doing, any part of these exercises that are unclear, any question that seems unclear, please feel free to add those details. We're very interested. So at this point, we're at the 1 hour point. We're going to take a break and we're going to come back and then score the tool. Felicia, I don't think we're going to break into groups. I would think I'd prefer to just do it as a whole group. If that's okay with you. So can we take a 5-minute break and come back at 11:05 and we will proceed to score the instrument? Does that sound good to everyone? All right, back in 5. All right, we're back. I'm just going to take a look out and see. We have a. All right. So now we're going to score the instrument and see how things go. We finished perfectly on time. That was fantastic. I want to talk just a little bit about the method. This starts on page. Let's see, what is it? In there, their methodology is described in. I can't see the page number, but in the workbook in part 3. But you don't have to go there. Oh yeah, turn to page 12. There we go. It's right on the slide. This is the how to and do section. So we're going to talk a little bit about the protocol, and then we're going to do it and talk about that together. So the rubric for each indicator looks like the lower right hand corner of this slide. It's you can see it's outlined in a number of colorful boxes right now. That won't be the case at the end of your workbook where all the rubrics are, but right now with the color coding obviously goes with the numbers so that we can explain the steps. So it's a 4-step method. The first step is preparation, so we'll talk about it once and then not again, but basically, to complete this tool, you should probably, you need at least the person there who is familiar with where things are documented, right? This is like a site coordinator or a site manager level kind of a tool to complete. It has to be a person who understands where fidelity is described for all these different kinds of practices or has the knowledge of. So that takes about an hour and a half, we think, to score it. That's our guess at this point. Although we think it's going to go faster today, and you can do it with the team, at which point it would obviously take a little bit longer. So that's the first step. The second step is the method we're going to talk about in the next couple of slides. There is an explicit method here. It's just trying to get that consistency to happen. But basically, it's where step 2 is comparing the practices. You read the indicator. You read the evidence statements, the examples below, you think about it and you say, what do we do to meet shared expectations? And that's your practice. And then once you've got that held in your head, that result of that comparison, then you can rate fidelity and say, yeah, we're doing this pretty well for everybody who needs it. And that's high fidelity. And so we asked that question, number 3 here, it's number 3, but it's the first question in the rubric about fidelity. Is probably the key question to be careful in thinking about. And then finally, we ask about capacity and resources and barriers in the following 2 questions. So a little more about step 2. Step 2, because we want to try to be accurate in holding these ideas in our head that are these big, complicated, these are complex things we're thinking about. So we're going to do this method of mental comparison. Our specialty is using anecdotal records, right? If we were going to make this more accurate, we would ask you to write down the example and then rate it. But this is a season in which people don't need to be spending a bunch of time doing accountability tasks. They need to be thinking about what's changing and how to respond, right? And not taking a lot of time to do it. So we're eliminating the thing we typically have in here, which is write down the evidence. We're not doing that. But you do have to remember it in your head what you're rating. So this is the method. You read the indicator and the examples of practice. You imagine the equivalent or alternative examples in your own work. Then you have to decide if they're being implemented well. When you say high fidelity, you're really saying this is what we're trying to do. We're achieving it. If you're not achieving high fidelity, then it should be marked low or non-implementation. Thinking about that question about fidelity specifically, and this is all in your workbook for reference as well. When you answer high fidelity, you are saying that practice I have in mind is occurring effectively for most children and families that we serve, and certainly for the ones who need it, right? Moderate fidelity, the second choice, is the practice is either we're not doing too well at this, or we're doing it for some, but we're just not getting to all the people who need it. And that we could, right? And then non-implementation, it's either, this is almost the least important one, because if it's non-implementation and it's something you're trying to do, it's already on your list. You're already paying attention to that. But you may not be trying to do it. And so this is a way of effectively also just kind of removing an indicator by saying this doesn't apply to us. So it's that moderate fidelity rating that is really most important here. That's where all the nuance is. And when you list something as moderate fidelity, you're really saying, hey, this is what I think we should be working on. I have an expectation that we could actually do this, but we're just not doing it, and we'd like to. So moderate, that's what moderate fidelity means. I'm going to do just a quick example. So this is the shared expectations rubric. This is just like what you'll see in the intensive scoring part of the workbook, part 2. So we have so our method is to read the indicator. Program staff communicate benefits of program participation, and they help co-create shared expectations. So this is really about shared expectations, about getting everybody on the same page. So then I look down here at the promising practice. So program staff asks the caregiver about their comfort level receiving packages. So obviously, or communication. That stuff's super important now. That's one way of getting expectations, an important part of expectation sharing. Another one is about school districts. They reach out to caregivers from the school district, provide recommendations, so they're really connected to the school district and with parents. So that's the way that they're setting common expectations. Another one is the way they distribute materials. They distribute materials with how-to boxes and ask the family to unpack and do the unpacking video. And that helps to set shared expectations. Different kinds of practices, and yours may be related to one of these, or the part of your practice that comes to mind as most important in achieving shared expectations of getting everybody on the same page is what you want to bring to mind. And then you ask yourself, so yeah, that important thing, are we doing that for most of the folks who need it? And are we doing it well or well enough, right? We're being practical here, right? Are we doing it well enough and for everybody? And if that's yes, then it's high fidelity. But if either we're not doing it as well as we'd like, or we're not getting to some children, then it's going to be moderate fidelity. This is a risk in this kind of tool, in this kind of era, in this moment, because, you know, everybody may be feeling like they're not able to get sufficient services to the children they would like to. So we may end up with just a bunch of moderate fidelity responses here and not much variation. It'll be interesting to see. This is the first, as I said, for many of these indicators, this will be the first data collection that wasn't part of the development of the indicator. So we're very interested to see how you respond to these questions. So anyways, you make your decision on fidelity, you move on to internal capacity. So we're not at fidelity. We're doing this practice. We're communicating with families, but not with all the families. We're having a hard time with communication. So we're not able to set shared expectations with some of the families. So I pick I pick moderate fidelity. Then I ask, do I know how to get it to high? Do I know how to fix this problem? Yes or no? And then finally, do you want outside help? And this is technical assistance, right? Training or technical assistance, but to me that means resources. And then are there any barriers? And your barrier be like, yeah, we're grossly understaffed. There's no way we could ever do this for all the kids, even though we should. So you can, feel free to be frank for the ones where there's a clear barrier. So this is the process. Right, and this next slide is just step 3 is rating the internal capacity and the technical assistance questions. And with that, with the discussion of mental comparisons and the discussion of fidelity, I think we're ready to go ahead and score. So I would ask now, are there any questions about what we're talking about doing? I would also say, let's try to limit yourself to 3 or 4 minutes per indicator, right? You saw how quickly we were able to match evidence. So this should probably take maybe twice as long as matching a piece of evidence like we did earlier, maybe 3 times, so 2-3 minutes, and then move on. My wife is a longtime person from the Head Start field and does lots of training technical assistance. She and her colleagues like to talk about spitballing it. That there are times when you can produce data that is highly, highly valid, but it basically comes from asking people the right questions. And so that's what we were trying to do in this instrument, is to have a uniform way of approaching a set of the right or good questions. So with that, if there are any questions or thoughts, anybody got any questions or thoughts? Let me look into the chat here, or anybody want to just ask any questions before we start scoring? I've seen some great comments. Lucy, would you like to, have you been following the chat? Would you like to share a couple of these?
Sure. I think that we shared a couple of these from earlier, but essentially folks are finding these indicators helpful, and a good reminder to write down new practices and things that are now being sort of regularly practiced because of COVID. And also that people are doing a lot of these things, and so sort of validating for them that they're working really hard and sort of checking a lot of these boxes. It also sounds like, I'm not sure what MUW is, but apparently they have virtual programs related to staff wellness and integrative program plans, and I would be really curious to learn a little bit more about that. So, that's pretty cool too, that people are relating this to their work. Metro United Way. Thank you, Rebecca.
All right, that's great. And again, we're going to stay on the line. I'm going to play a few tunes, but we're going to be here, and feel free to jump in and ask or jump into the chat, and we'll consider this to be a supported activity. Let's start on page 15 of the workbook, and we'll score one together and just chat about it real quick. So if you could go ahead and score indicator number 2, the information and advocacy indicator. I'm going to give you 4 minutes. So we'll come back. It's 11:19. We'll come back at 11:23. And I'd just like to get a couple of examples, people to say how they thought about it and how they made the scores, just to give us a quick example. And then we're going to go on and score 8 more. So I'll be back in 3.5 minutes. And maybe we'll do something a little more upbeat this time. All right, let's come back and talk about it a little bit. And if anyone is, I mean, we don't know how long these are going to take us. So if anybody's explicitly not done, go ahead and put that in the chat. If you want a few more minutes or another minute, we can do that. All right.
But if anyone else is having an issue with Adobe and the PDF and you want me to send you a version over Google, I'm happy to do that. So just throw your email in the chat if you're having problems with that.
Right on. Okay, so I think from those of you who are done, I'm going to go back to get all the faces out here. For those of you who were able to work through it, how did it work? Were you able to think of a practice to hold it in your mind and make the fidelity decision? Did that make sense? Any thoughts? Did it work? Would you trust the rating that you just made? I'm seeing head shaking. A little skepticism. Yeah. All right. Well, let's, do you feel like you understand the method? Is everybody cool with that? I'll go with nods and thumbs. Yeah. Yeah, right on. Okay. Okay. All right. Some people tuning in. Thanks, Liz. Okay. So let's try it. Let's try 8 more of them. These are the same ones that you did in the matching exercises. So you will have already read these indicators. So let's go ahead and dig in. We're going to take, I'm thinking that I'm going to take 10 minutes and then check back in. So, and just see how, so it's 11:26 right now. I'm going to come back at 11:36 and just see how it's going, check back in. So everybody plan to dig in, try again. So you should probably try to be done with 4, 5, and 7 by the time I check in, just to keep pacing yourself. So give the first several a try. And as I said, I'll check back in 10 minutes. And how are you feeling about the music? Are you guys tuning the music out? Do you like the music? I'm seeing a thumb. Not many people have done assessments to Roy Ayers' Funk in the Hole before, but I thought it was an appropriate choice. You all have a great vibes player from Lionel Hampton or somebody, isn't it? Some great vibes player from Louisville, I thought. I don't know. Maybe somebody can send me that in the chat too. I need to improve my Louisville jazz knowledge. All right. I'm going to get us a little Mystic Voyage for this next one. So we'll be back in 10 minutes. Right on. All right, I'm gonna come back as promised. I think that's 10 minutes. How's it going? Have you made it to the third? Have you made it to the third indicator yet? Is this working as planned? Getting a so-so. Anybody want to share? If we're having any challenges with anything, I think that would be helpful to others. This does require a certain amount of going with your gut, but we don't want it to feel completely arbitrary either. So, any examples? Kate, were you going to share something?
Well, I'm just such a small program, but that doesn't mean this is not really thought-provoking for me, but some of it doesn't apply right this minute. So, but that being said, I could always use more resources on following up. We're only a 6-week summer program, but I always want to follow up with the kids and the parents. But a lot of that is technology. Yeah. Because my parents sometimes don't answer emails, and a lot of their academic information is private, so I can't get a lot of it once they go back to school. So I'm kind of hindered by some things, but I'm always looking for additional resources on how to grow my program and to collect more data and to better connect with my families.
Yeah. So then does that mean that you answered non-implementation to some of these, that this is really not what I'm trying to do?
No, I just put in comments.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's coming from a small specialty kind of program perspective. Anybody else got a larger organization perspective on these? Oh, Kate, were you able to get to the third one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So for me, we're a fairly large organization. I guess normally we have 100 to 120 kids a day.
Megan.
Right now we're at 50, of course, because of COVID.
Yeah.
But I think for me, a part of it that's kind of conflicting is narrowing down my thought process. You're saying take one example. And so I try to think of one example that we're doing, and then I find when we're doing really well, but I think of something else in that same category, like we really need work on. You're thinking of number 2, for example, it's like we're doing great with supporting families. Like we have a food pantry on site, we have rent and utility assistance, expungement assistance. Like we're doing great with connecting families to information and hands-on support. Yeah. But like we're really struggling with school connectivity. Yeah. We contact the resource coordinators and it's like 50-50 who really responds to us. It's like in terms of some of those we're doing great, and then there's one where we're struggling. So it's kind of hard to focus in that way.
So would it help you if it would help you if this rubric had like enter your instances of meeting this indicator and rate.
Like ways we're doing this well and ways we could still areas we're doing this well, areas we could improve the fidelity. Okay. Because I think with most of these it's conflicting because we're doing some stuff great. Yeah. And it's not so much some kids or all kids, it's really some areas, all areas within that same little piece.
Well, and maybe this is a part that I didn't make clear enough too. I think the point of reference for this was really an after school or an out of school time site. So if you're thinking about it from an organization, a cross site perspective, or where there are actually multiple programs within the same organization, I think you would definitely, we're probably not equipped to handle that. This is really thinking about one program kind of at a time. So I think would that make a difference in thinking about it that way? Megan?
I think so, but so much of what we do is completely integrative because the same kids who are coming to that program are accessing all the other information. Yeah. Like the same kids who come on site for NTI are the kids who are getting food support and rent and utility assistance. Right. So I guess it would help somewhat to narrow it down to just NTI, but.
Yeah. So this is like the PQA. You have to decide which setting it applies to. And if you have too broad of a perspective, that may make it more, it's not really, the instrument is not up to that test, maybe. Camille, you were nodding. Did you have a comment? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Can you hear me? No, you're fine. It's a little slow because I'm on my headphones because I'm sharing an office space. Yeah, I would say agree kind of with what Megan said. When we have different funding for different programs, there's multiple schools that Family and Children's Place, Family and School Services team works out of. So kind of just remembering that this tool can be used by each person at that program. That way, it doesn't feel like you're looking at so many at the same time, and you can get a better idea of what each program is doing.
Yeah, good. Thank you for that. Okay, so for those of you who are on video, can you hold up a number of fingers, how many you've gotten through? How many indicators? I see a 3. Okay, 4, 5. All right, that's great. So we're making progress. So can we just go ahead and try to finish the rest of these 8? Give it another 10 minutes?
Charles?
Yeah.
Really quick, there was a comment in the chat. Allison was wondering if you could explain a little bit more how the items fit into the scales and domains, and was trying to sort of draw the connection to their experience with the PQA. And I was wondering if you could explain a little bit more about that.
Cool. So for us, this the indicator level items the indicators are getting close to the level of the items on the PQA, though they are still probably up a level of abstraction, and many of them are double-barreled. Again, because they kind of go together in the way that the after-school people we talked to, they put those things together. So again, we're going for real efficiency here, that this doesn't take, because we're covering a lot of organizational systems in the tool. So the indicators are, they're probably not quite as granular as the PQA indicators. They're probably more like the PQA scales that we're trying to rate. And that's just always a problem with precision. But by thinking about the indicators, we're trying to think, for us, are we doing this well enough? And that's the logic of the indicator rather than the observation. When I see it, does it fit to the rubric? Here we're just trying to think of it and say, and the rubric is really, are we doing this well enough or not?
Yeah. And also pointed out that there seem to be some sub items within each indicator, like you were saying, that they're double barreled.
Yeah, there absolutely are. Yeah, it's just an efficiency thing. We're really trying to move from the words of the expert practitioners that we built the tool with. So they got, the things got grouped in that way. So all right, so what do we think? Are we ready to try? Do you want to do a couple more examples? Do you want to talk about it a little more? Or do we want to go on and try and finish the rest of these 8? Looks like we're ready to finish 8. I'm seeing some nods. Let's do 10 more minutes. It's 11:45 right now. I'll come back in at 11:55 and we'll see where everybody, and when we get to 11:55, I'd like everyone to type into the chat how far they've gotten through the indicators so we can just see. All right, so we'll be back at 11:55. All right, we're going to come back in 1 minute. So kind of finish up what you're working on. And I'll be back in 60 seconds. And also, when you finish up what you're working on, if you could type into the chat how far you've gotten, what indicator you're on of the 8. That would be super helpful. Thank you. And if you've finished, you can just keep right on moving until we come back and keep scoring the other ones in the second part of that workbook. While finishing up, I had a request to explain why we use domain standard indicator instead of domain scale item. It's just because this instrument is not as far as long. So we haven't really gotten down to the item level yet in a convincing way. That just takes time and chipping away to craft the items out of the indicators. So the basic reason is we need to go a level lower. The other reason is because this was explicitly stated, created for state government. And in Michigan, that domain standard indicator thing works for that group. So that's a big part of it. You can also use domain scale item, I think, as the person asking the question said. So you can use either one, really. All right, so we're back, and it looks like a few people saying that they've gotten through the desired group. So I would love to hear comments about how you're thinking about how it's going. Could we hear 2 or 3 comments about? It can either be about good stuff this made you think of, or boy, this is we're doing something really great, and this could be a way to show it, or this is too unclear. I need a second rubric for this one to do the 2 programs I'm working on, or the 2 parts I'm working on that apply under this indicator. Any of those kind of comments would be most welcome at this moment.
This is Patrick again. So I have a comment. In looking through a lot of these, I feel like it's reflective of like academic support, like the out of school program is sort of like helping the kids with their academics. But with us, that's not applicable. I mean, it is to some degree, but most of our stuff is relationship based. So, and even with our program, we're still able to meet in a lot of ways still in person, since it's all individual and one-to-one. So some of the questions I'm like, it doesn't really apply to us. It might in some situations, but I wouldn't be able to say for most children and families, only maybe in certain instances.
Yeah, right on. That's very helpful. Thank you. Others? Yeah, please, Camille.
Yeah, I think it worked really well. It helped me kind of conceptualize things that we're already working on to improve definitely the aspects of programs, such as identifying needs and the virtual piece that we're trying to revamp and make sure we're using the best practices. So it helps to kind of guide the work that we're already starting on and kind of affirm that we're going in the right direction.
Okay, good. That's what we want to hear. That's the purpose. And, we would like, really probably any of you to be able to sit down with your team and go through this and have the discussion, spend about an hour on it, hour and a half, and have the discussion be really meaningful. That's the point. We also want to look at the data just to see what that tells us. But yeah, that's what we want to hear that. So that's very positive. And Patrick and Kate, I think we'll also be taking your comments back too, and Megan too. I'm wondering how to deal about. I wonder if you could, in this thing, if you could like click in and get a second rubric pop up when you want to talk about two things in relation to one of the indicators. Okay, so that's really great. If anybody else has any comment, we would love to hear that right now. So we're at 2 o'clock, and this is about as much of your time as we wanted to take. We are going to do a wrap up, but as we said, not farewell, because we'll still stay on the phone, on the Zoom call for another 20 minutes or half hour if you want to just finish the instrument right now and ask us any questions while you're doing it. So we will stay on the call. But Lucy, could you take us through the wrap up submission discussion?
Absolutely. So once you're able to finish the scoring from page 14 on, you'll be able to submit your workbook to us. There is a Dropbox link in your workbook, and then also on the Q-Turn webpage that I made for the training. I'll be updating that afterwards with, I found like an error in the slide, so I'll be fixing that and re-uploading it, and then also the workbook. And there's a button, so you can just click right there and submit the work through the website as well. We'll take a couple days to get your information and then send a report back to you on that email address that you gave to us, I think on the 3rd page of the workbook. So make sure to fill out that information. Again, like Charles said at the top of the training, we are only giving and sharing this information with you all. And hopefully it'll help sort of give you a clear idea on, next steps and where your program is right now in this moment.
Awesome. And as I said, we would so appreciate it, even if you don't finish it, what you've finished right now. If you say, this was great, but I'm probably not going to keep going. This is not going to be that useful to me. Even if you send us what you've done so far, we will put that into a report and send it back to you. Our goal is for this product to produce a nearly free, within 24-hour report. When you submit it, it comes in and an automated one comes back to your email address, is our goal for this. So if you send them in, that'll also give us an opportunity to practice. So we would really love that. So that brings us to the end. Before, I think Felicia may want to say a couple of words. As I said, if you drop off and just go complete it on your own, that's fine. Put it in that Dropbox. If you can't get in there, send it to Lucy. Her email is on the materials as well. I don't know, do we have anything, is there anything more in our presentation, Lucy? Yeah.
Dr. Smith, your music selection of the late 70s Roy Ayers was right on time. You took me back to my college days.
Yeah, right on, right on. Well, I'm glad
I know the album well, Mystic Voyage.
Mystic Voyage, yeah. Outstanding.
My age.
Both of us, yes. Well, anyway, so I think that does it for us for now. Again, we're going to stay on. Send us the report. We'll get it back to you by early next week. For those of you who are wearing face masks, God bless you. It's hard work right now, and we appreciate you doing this. And we know it's been rough in Louisville in the last several months too. I see the Breonna Taylor face mask. I can't not mention it. We're with you on all that. So right on. Send us the email. We'll be back in touch, and really good luck in your work. Thank you so much for taking the time. This is a major help, and we will promise to share what we learned from you with other people. So thank you very much.
Yes, and if you have any questions while working on this on your own or with your team, feel free to send us an email. We are always happy to provide support and help.
Thank you, everybody. Don't forget, they will hang around for the next 20 to 30 minutes. Please continue working if you have time, and they will answer any question that you have. If just as a quick follow-up, I will be sending out an email to you with a link to a survey that I asked that you complete regarding today's session. Also, there will be a follow-up link with the YouTube video for today for you to reference at your leisure, as well as to share with any staff who may be interested and who could not attend. And as always, if you have any questions for me, please do not hesitate to ask. But please feel free to continue to stay on. Thanks.